We've got some shocking data that's come directly from ICE, from Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement. More than 13,000 immigrants convicted of homicide are living outside immigration detention in the U.S. They are not in jail. They are not in ICE custody. They are just roaming around the land. And so we wonder, why are we hearing about all of these crazy criminal news stories, including multiple counts of sexual assault? This is why. You allow enough people into the country, a certain percentage of them are going to be convicted murderers. Now we've got it right from the horse's mouth. All right, let's get into it. Let's see how mainstream media spins this story. So we're going to start with NBC because, NBC, ABC, CBS, they do not portray accurate news. Let's just say that. They throw it out there. Okay. Two law enforcement officials, here we go. Here is exactly what I'm talking about. Two law enforcement officials said many of those migrants crossed into the U.S. under previous administrations and that the total includes people serving U.S. prison sentences. Okay, how many? How many? See how they're already... We haven't even started the main article yet, and they're already making excuses for, those numbers aren't good. Those aren't good numbers. You can't rely upon those as good numbers. More than 13,000 immigrants convicted of homicide, either in the U.S. or abroad, or living outside of Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention. The immigrants are part of ICE's non-detained docket, meaning the agency has some information on the immigrants. They have pending immigration cases in the U.S., but they are not currently in detention, either because they are not prioritized for detention. You just murdered one person. It's all good. Come on back. They are serving time in a jail or prison for their crimes, or because ICE cannot find them. Well, how come they're not in custody? Barney Fife here. We can't find them. I don't know where they are. Where'd they go? Maybe they went back home. Maybe they went back to Venezuela. Probably not, right? Two of the officials said it is not known how many are incarcerated because ICE is not always privy to that data from state and local law enforcement agencies. Without the data being shared back and forth, and especially with a country like Venezuela, where we don't have any diplomatic interaction with, we don't know who these folks are, and we don't even really have a way of vetting them. So how does this all work? Just let them into the country, let them into the U.S. They're an important part of the economy. Acting ICE Director P.J. Leitner, he sent the data collected as of July 21st as part of a request sent in March from Republican Representative Tony Gonzalez. Okay, so we're gonna look at that letter, but what I want you to see right now is, let's go ahead and let's watch just a scooch of video.
Non-detained docket. Essentially what that is it means migrants who were encountered by DHS but are no longer in federal custody. So who's on this non-detained docket? It's illegal immigrants who were caught and released at the border, released with the court date years away. They're in immigration proceedings, combined with illegal immigrants who have already been ordered, deported from the country by a judge, but are still here roaming the country. So keep that in mind, this non-detained docket. According to a letter that the acting director of ICE just sent to Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez, on ICE's non-detained docket, they're currently tracking 425,000 non-citizens who have been convicted of a crime. Of that number,
425,000 criminals in the United States, non-citizens. That seems like a lot. That seems like a lot, doesn't it? Yeah, that seems overwhelming. That just seems like an incredible number of criminals that flat shouldn't be here. Let's keep going.
Over 13,000 non-citizens have convictions for homicide and are on the non-detained docket, meaning they're roaming the country right now. On top of that, there are another 15,811 non-citizens convicted of sexual assault who are roaming.
Again, we read all the stories. We talk about, a little sexual assault over here. Violent rape here. Not good here. And yet mainstream media, you know what they want to do? Yeah, I mean, big city crime, you're going to have, it's just, it's the way life is. It's just, none of this stuff needs to be happening because these folks shouldn't be in the country, period. They shouldn't be paroled anywhere.
In the country right now on ICE's non-detained docket. It doesn't stop there. Those are convictions. The ICE director also says there are currently just under 1,900 non-citizens on the non-detained docket who have pending homicide charges who are roaming the country, and another 4,250 non-citizens who have pending sexual assault charges.
Those are some crazy numbers. 13,000 murderers, 15,000 rapists, another 4,000 in the pipeline for pending rape investigations, another how many thousand something for murderers. I mean, the fact that we keep seeing this in the media just as much as we do is kind of an indicator of this is a reality that we're staring down the barrel of, and there's really no way to get around it because these folks are already in the United States. They're already here. They're doing their thing. Did you guys see the big billboard?
Well, drivers entering.
There it is. There's the billboard.
25.
Venezuela ahead. Be prepared. Everybody on the left was like, this is terrible. This is awful. Well, I mean, when you bring in that many folks from a certain community, it does tend to become that community, doesn't it? Billionaire put that billboard up. Absolutely nutty. Yeah. So here's that letter from ICE. And what I want you to look at here is, in recent years, however, as you know, some jurisdictions have reduced their cooperation with ICE. That would be sanctuary cities to include and states to include refusal to honor ICE detainer requests, even for non-citizens who have been convicted of serious felonies, including murder and rape. Now they're good people deep down. Now they did kill somebody, and then they took somebody to Pound Town against their will. But it's okay. It's all right. I mean, they're illegals and pose an ongoing threat to public safety. ICE recognizes that some jurisdictions are concerned that cooperating with federal immigration officials will erode trust with immigrant communities and make it harder for local enforcement to serve those populations. However, and whenever you say however or but, that means ignore everything I just said, and the truth is right here. However, sanctuary policies can end up shielding dangerous criminals who often victimize those same communities. This is in the lead off paragraph indicating kind of the background for these stats. Despite the challenges of operating within a broken immigration system and in the face of an enormous workload and consistently limited funding, DHS continues to enforce the law to secure our borders. And how's that going? How's that working out, guys and girls? What's going on? How we doing? So the numbers we saw, what I would, some of the things that come to mind when I see these articles is like this one right here. Fact check. To attack Harris, Trump falsely describes new stats on immigrants and homicide. Trump said a bunch of stuff. He said that all these people had come through during the Biden and Harris administration. That wasn't necessarily true, but just the sheer numbers that we're talking about here in the United States, whether they came through during Harris's, the Democrats have controlled things for the last 12 of 16 years, right? So blaming too much of this stuff on Republicans, it's going to be, it just doesn't make any sense. And during Trump's administration, he had record low 45-year lows of illegals coming into the country. So if you want to blame Trump for a lot of these folks being here, you can, but that doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense, does it? The vast majority of folks that are here or that, you might say a small percentage or they're in the prison system. They're not detained by ICE. Yeah, but if 99% of these folks were in jail or prison, U.S. jail or U.S. prison, we wouldn't be reading all these crazy stories about people being taken out and raped. We just wouldn't. It just wouldn't be a thing. So let's look and see what CNN has to say. Trump falsely claimed Friday and Saturday that statistics are specifically about criminal offenders who entered the U.S. during the Biden-Harris administration. In reality, the figures are about offenders who entered the U.S. over multiple decades, including during the Trump administration, and Trump falsely claimed that the statistics are specifically about people who are now living freely in the U.S. The figure actually includes people who are currently in jails and prison serving criminal sentences. That still being said, the number of folks running around committing these crimes it's avoidable, because if we had, if we had a more secure southern border like we have not had over the last 3.5 years, getting close to 4 years now, I think things would be wildly different. You wouldn't be talking about this kind of number. You wouldn't have ICE coming right out and stating, oh, numbers ain't good, folks. This isn't good. This isn't good. So this is mainstream media. This is CNN's attempt to don't look at this. Look at this. Look at what Trump is saying. Look at what he said. Don't do a deep dive on the actual data, which is you got a ton of murderers and rapists running around willy-nilly committing their shenanigans. And by that, I mean rape and murder. I mean, that's what the numbers say, right? And we're not talking about, the 13,000 and the 15,000. Those are convicted. Those are not pending cases. Those are convicted. Those are people we've allowed into the country knowing that they've done this stuff. And then we wonder why it happens. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that this is going on. How could this possibly be happening in the way that it is? Well, it is, guys. How about this one? How migrant gang Tren de Aragua is luring women into forced prostitution in 8 states, including New York City's Market of Sweethearts. I mean, this story alone, it basically goes on to say that the violent prison gang from Venezuela, they have infiltrated and they are operating heavily in Texas, Nevada, Illinois, California, Florida, Georgia, New Jersey, and New York. Now, when you start to break that down, Texas, border state, right? Nevada, border state. Illinois, sanctuary state. California, sanctuary state. Florida, border state. Georgia, well, Georgia's got Atlanta. So New Jersey and New York, sanctuary cities, right? States. So, I mean, when you've got a known criminal prison gang out of Venezuela that our country doesn't work with diplomatically because we have no relationship with Venezuela, and you have this kind of stuff going on, it's not shocking that we've got a bunch of murderers and that we've got a bunch of people committing other crimes. One of the heaviest ones is rape. It seems like every day you turn around, you've got a story or two, and so many of them now are being buried because it's not a good look for the current administration, is it? No, it's not. And, I follow a lot of news, and I feel like the whole R-word story has come up a lot lately. I don't know if that's just because it's on my horizon, and I don't statistically know what the numbers are. But when I see some of these horrific stories, and they're committed by people who've, come into the country illegally, a felony, crossing the border illegally, when, they've been committed by those types of folks, that's when I'm like, well, any which way you try and, cook the books on the data, those are people that just flat out shouldn't be here. And these sanctuary cities, these sanctuary states, like I said, you're basically creating a safety issue for the people in those communities, for the people in sanctuary cities, for the people in sanctuary states. You're creating a massive issue because Tren de Aragua is luring women into forced prostitution in 8 states. What they do is, they bring them in and they tell them, all right, you got to do, you got to create this amount of money and we're going to take that. We're going to pay off your debt. Your debt is XYZ. We'll bring you in. But, you're a good looking woman. You're a good looking 13-year-old girl. We'll get you working. You won't have to do that much. It won't be that hard. I mean, you just don't have to do much, right? Other than be horrifically assaulted by strange men for days and days and days, months, and sometimes years on end. It's going to be fine. You're going to get your freedom. And they sign up for it because they feel like they don't have too many other options. And then they get put into housing, and then they get given allowance, and then clothing allowance, and then medical stuff, comes up. All of those are tacked onto their bill, and they can never quite seem to make it out of this forced prostitution. So you've got, of all the folks that you've got coming into the United States, it doesn't take that many from a gang like Tren de Aragua to really create these situations where you've got kind of large scale going on. And remember when we talked about, just not that long ago, who is Tren de Aragua? Are they in the United States? Now we're literally a few months later talking about, well, they're in 8 states and they're doing forced prostitution and here's how they do it. Yeah. Some people would argue, well, this would have occurred anyway, Sean. This is just how it would go. But ICE is coming right out and stating that, hey, this is creating a safety issues for the very communities that these policies are trying to protect. So again, so much of what I cover is terrible public policy that results in terrible end results. Just people thinking this is going to be the greatest concept ever. But they don't have the ability to quite work it through and go, okay, so what does that mean? We're going to allow a whole bunch of people into the country that we're just going to release on parole and call it parole. And it's going to be fine. Oh, and by the way, we're not turning anybody over to ICE. They're terrible. They're bad guys, but they don't think through. What if some of those people are convicted murderers? And what if they commit other crimes? Don't seem to quite get that far, right? Or they do, and they just go ahead and do it anyway. Let's put this policy in place. It's going to be great. It's kind of like Governor Newsom. He put in that, plastic sack in the grocery stores. Have you guys followed the whole plastic sack deal? All right. Don't hand out any of the thin ones. Only let them buy one of those thick reusable sacks. And plastic consumption goes up. It goes up. Yeah, the recycling places, they aren't taking them, and people are using them as if they're one-time use only. Plastic consumption has gone up. So we got to just outlaw the whole plastic. Just policy like that, policy after policy after policy. It doesn't really make any sense. And then we get to the end of the road where we see the end results and we're like, oh, yeah, 13,000 murderers, 16,000, 15,000 rapists, and a bunch more on the way. And the big kicker on this story is this does not include any data from the 2 million estimated gotaways, people that are in the country illegally that we've never tracked down. And we've got an estimate. It's around 2 million. What percentage of those do you think might have been folks coming from Venezuela's prison system that was just dumped out when they said, you know what? Be free. Go do your thing. We can't control you. Go do your thing. Yeah, probably a bunch. So those numbers are probably on the light side, would be my guess. And this whole notion of, well, some of them might be in prison and jail. Okay, all right. They're not in ICE custody. Fits that. But how many are in the 2 million? How many are actually in the country? That would be the real number, wouldn't it? We have no way of determining that because we're not keeping track. We're just giving people, literally read a story last week where, young families coming in on the one app, the border app, If you can figure out how to, make that go, literally an app you download to your cell phone, and you just reach out and reach out and reach out. And eventually they give you a court date, or they give you a meetup time at a border crossing. You go there. And family last week, they said they were asked 0 questions about why they were seeking asylum in the United States. And they seemed like, they were young family, young kids. They seemed legit, right? But how many folks that aren't legit are doing that exact same thing? And there's virtually 0 vetting of people into the United States. Probably a lot, probably a bunch. So all of these folks that have come in, they need to be vetted. You just got to vet them, because otherwise it ends up with what we're talking about right here. And you got a bunch of murderers and rapists running around, and, thieves, whatever else it is, whatever else it might be. And there's no way to really work around that. It's happening. It's ongoing. And the media is trying to cover it up because it doesn't look good for the current administration. Yeah, shocking. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Love to have you subscribe, because we're covering this topic long term. All right. That's it for me. Bye for now.